Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.
The incomparable Cole Porter songs were the essence of wit and sophistication. Famously wealthy, his life was marked by tragedy, courage, sorrow, and secrecy. In Cole Porter, a biography by William McBrien. Let's meet my guest, Bill Furstenberger. What's up tonight, Bill?
Anything goes today, Gail.
Hey, we're ready. It's party, 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 isn't it?
Oh, it is indeed. I'm going to be preparing a prawn cocktail with my own homemade sauce. And what are you doing?
Well, let's see. Hors d'oeuvre assorti. Assorted hors d'oeuvres. Assorted hors d'oeuvres. Several. We're going to have some lobster, creamed lobster. We'll have some sardines. And we're going to have stuffed eggs, deviled eggs, and then we're going to have stuffed potatoes. So we're ready to party, aren't we? One more thing.
Yes.
Pop the cork, s'il vous plaît.
Oh, let's get this party started.
I tell you, we're way behind in Cole Porter's arrangements, but this I found was a very interesting book. And to think this man came from Peru, or do they really say Peru?
I think they do say Peru. Some folks do there. At least I've met some.
My gosh, night and day they say Peru.
But you have me on with some regularity because we're talking about Hoosier writers.
Yes.
So today we switch things up a little bit. We're talking about a Hoosier songwriter.
Yes.
A great American songbook, and Cole Porter being a part of that. So
we couldn't pass that up.
No.
He's a gem of America. And what I discovered too were this life in which he
Hey.
There was a lot of that in his life, wasn't there?
There was a lot of that.
A lot of popping of corks and cocktails, and we learned a lot about him that we maybe didn't know before. What was his family like? His life in Peru?
Well, he came from wealth. That's really one of the most important things to recognize and think about, is that he came from a family of means. And that also his grandfather, who I think was the initiator of most of that wealth, didn't always approve of everything that Cole wanted to do with his music career and his personal life. And he had no problem keeping Grandpa in the dark.
Yes, and it was probably good for him to keep him in the dark because he did have a kind of a dark life.
We shall start with a toast to Cole Porter.
Yes.
And to you.
Yes, absolutely. To our home guest. We're so glad you're here for the opening of Anything Goes, which I think was one of his most popular plays. That's not a play, musicals, yes.
Well, and that song really defined the jazz era and the jazz age, didn't it? There were breaking of norms and so many different revolutions and things happening in the world and in America and in popular culture. And Cole Porter just kind of stepped right into that doorway and, put songs by it, put it to music. He put the whole movement
That's
to
very
music.
well said. This starts in the 20s. He was born in 1891. In the 20s, he starts writing plays, musicals.
Mm-hmm.
But before, let's go back to, he has his life in Indiana. It doesn't say too much about his life. It talks a little bit about his family.
Right.
And his mother. He adored his mother and she adored him. She kind of went around the grandfather, and we don't hear much about the father. Ooh, that was a devil-may-care approach.
What I'm doing is we're going to be doing our prawn cocktail. You can buy it in the store in the frozen section, and it's already pre-cooked, and it looks so beautiful and nice, those prawns. But I think that I wanted to go the next step. So we got the raw prawns, okay, and we're going to show how you cook raw prawns into a prawn cocktail, and believe me, it's so much better. You're
So
gonna
much
love
better.
it.
I'll be the judge of that.
So I just put in half a lemon, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
put in about a teaspoon or so of, I like Himalayan salt,
Oh, I do too.
and just a few peppercorns. You don't have to really. That's
Just a
enough.
few?
Just
Okay.
enough. 7, 8,
I
10,
can already
whatever.
smell that lemon.
So now we want to bring this to a rolling boil.
A rolling boil. And while we're waiting for that
Yes.
to roll and boil, I just wanted to say that his mother wants him to go to a finishing school, not a finishing school, that's for girls, but a private school.
Yes.
And he goes to Worcester,
Mm-hmm.
and he's there, and then he goes off to Yale.
Right.
Now,
Where
whoa,
he writes 300 songs.
Yeah.
300 songs in his 4 years at Yale.
and it really changed his life. But what was the key ingredient that pushed him always into the public eye, into a party, and he became the focal point at the piano?
Oh yes, of course. Well, the instrument of composition and music writing, and so
He was
yeah.
a natural.
Yeah.
He would just go right to the piano, and everybody knew him. He became instantaneously popular on
did.
both schools.
He
And
wrote a couple of school songs for Yale that they still
their fight
use today.
song.
Yeah, they still use them
and
today.
something called Bull or something. It's another
Right.
song they sang. Well, and he was very interested in doing all these plays with his friends. So there were some very famous people that went to school with him. There was Clifton Webb and Archibald MacLeish and Dean Acheson. He was Secretary of State. So he met these people, and of
Sure.
course he drew everybody in with his personality and his singing
Mm-hmm.
and his piano playing.
Yeah,
So he was a natural.
Charisma.
It
I
was
mean,
charisma.
Yeah, absolutely. And so do you want to talk a little bit about when he then was encouraged to go to law school by his
Yeah.
grandfather?
Oh yes, and what happened?
Well, he said, "Sure, I'll
I'm
do
not
that."
excited.
He wasn't too excited, but he told his grandfather that he was going to law school. He enrolled for a little while, and his professors at Harvard Law School suggested that he study music.
Yes, music was his thing, and he'd be quite good at
And
it.
he changed, unbeknownst to his grandfather, who was footing the bill. Kind of released his law coursework and went into music, and his grandfather was none the wiser.
Well, and he studied composition. He studied all kinds of technical things, and so he gets through law school, and he starts composing, and his musicals get on Broadway. And three of the people who always seem to appear in his plays are Ethel Merman, Bert Lahr, Bob Hope, and I don't know who the other one was, Jimmy Durante. So I think they were kind of, what would you call that kind of music and play? It was kind of corny.
Yeah, pop culture. I think that was another reason why his grandfather did not approve of his music career, was because, this is like being a rock star. It wasn't serious enough. It was something that just wasn't viewed as being a worthwhile avocation and
You're going to
profession
be a
for somebody
musician?
coming from wealth and means.
Yes.
So here are my raw uncooked prawns, and I've turned the water off. And
Well.
so I'm just going to
Well, he's
Gently,
doing that.
let's
I'm
not
making my deviled eggs. So just
splash any of these guys in. It's very important that the water is off. Don't let it splash on you here. I'll
no.
protect you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And then you cover it and we wait. It's very important that you don't keep the prawns on heat or continue to let them boil. Just let them cook in the hot water off
3 or
the,
4 minutes, right?
For that many, probably about 6 or 7 minutes.
At the most.
Yeah.
We don't want them to turn to rubber. That's what happens if you overcook shrimp. But if that happens today, we will not say a word.
It'll be perfect prawns.
It'll be perfect prawns, yes. And I am making some hors d'oeuvres. And since I don't have any caviar, I'm chopping up some black olives to make them look like caviar. And then I have little circles of green olives. And I like that.
And I am just getting a little bit of water together and some more ice because after the prawns are cooked, we're going to put them into an ice bath.
All right, a
That's
nice
another
bath.
part of the to kind of seal in the juices and keep them tender.
And to stop cooking.
To stop cooking.
Yes, yes, all of that. Okay, I've started on my deviled eggs with my faux caviar and some green olives. And here's some lobster with some crackers here. Oh, and that's divine. Over here, and since this is just opening cans, I didn't go fishing for them. I just decided to put them out and let them saturate the studio with the aroma of oysters and sardines. So you're preparing the bath.
Yep.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That
We're getting
bowl
there. I
is
need a little more water.
a little more water. Okay. So he doesn't quite flunk out of law school. He's starting to compose, and he composes many naughty songs that he loved to sing at private parties. And it's a little bit like Dorothy Parker and her group at the Algonquin. I mean, they were more snide and sarcastic. These are kind of funny, but they do get a little over the top. Now, we're going to just take a minute so your prawns
We will be putting
cool.
that in the ice bath, and then when we come back, I'll be doing my sauce.
And we're going to do a list of the productions, the most famous productions of Cole Porter, and we'll be right back. And here we are. We're still preparing for our big party tonight.
We are indeed.
And look at that.
The prawns have cooked, and it's time to put them into their ice bath.
Ice bath.
Ice
Yes.
bath.
And what does that do?
It kind of seals in the juices so they don't continue to cook and they don't
Yes.
get rubbery like you said.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to continue to fish these guys out, and then
You
I'm
do
going
that?
to start on my sauce.
You know, I like that idea of putting a lemon in there, half a lemon while you're cooking them. That
Sure.
adds an extra.
Well, I'm going to use the lemon on my final
Is this
tray.
a Furstenberger?
No, I wish
idea?
I could say it was, but no, I learned how to do this. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
it's not a developed skill. Okay, I think we have them all.
You've got
All
them
right.
all? All right, you do what you need to do. And I just want to say I'm cutting some more. I boiled some little potatoes, marbles. And I always cut down a little bit off the bottom because you don't want it tipping and falling over. So I will do some more of the cheese. And I am using a Boursin cheese. Normally I'd use sour cream, but I thought, let's do something different. You know, anything goes, right?
Anything goes.
That's our
Anything goes.
motto. That's our motto now. Anything goes.
So I started with a base of just Heinz ketchup, which, by the way, I was rather disappointed I couldn't get an original glass bottle because I'm an anti-squeeze bottle type of guy. But I
goodness.
couldn't find any.
I didn't know that about you.
It's a little known secret, Gail. And then a little dash of Lee and Perrins Worcestershire,
Of course.
some cracked pepper, probably about not quite a full tablespoon of brown sugar. I like to put ginger in just about everything, so a little dash of ginger.
Ginger is good. You know, it really is.
My also favorite secret ingredient, a little couple drops of Frank's Red Hot sauce.
I bet you're partying all weekend long. You and your wife, you're having shrimp, aren't you?
And it wouldn't be Bill Furstenberger without maple syrup. What was that?
And you party all weekend long.
Oh, yeah, sure. Anybody who's been to my house knows that's probably not the case, but hey.
Well, but you know how to party.
And we're just gonna gently
This is
try
lovely.
to whisk this together.
We're having a nice little hors d'oeuvre bar here. And if you have some friends in, You don't have to always have dinner. Just say we're having early hors d'oeuvres, and we'll have some hors d'oeuvre, as they say in French, and we'll have a little cava. So come over at
We
6.
should. It's time for more
yes.
cava. So
More cava.
cheers again.
Cava is the name for Spanish champagne. And he had one one musical he did that had a lot of Spanish, Caribbean music in it. So that's to that. It's a toast to that program. So
Okay.
you're all ready, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe a little squeeze of some lemon juice in there too. Oh, get the seed out though.
Yeah, let's take the seed out. And I have to say, he and his wife were married 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, Cole Porter preferred men.
Mm-hmm.
His wife loved him. They stayed together. They traveled separately. They didn't always live together, but they were close companions for over 35 years. She had problems with asthma, breathing. She had to go to Arizona quite a few years in a row, and maybe every year she would go someplace dry. And he then moved on to California, and that's where his life got a bit wild and a little out of hand. And
But luxury was always part of the Cole Porter
my
lifestyle.
gosh.
We didn't talk about their time when they lived in Venice, and they rented a palace in Venice that at the time was $4,000 a month, which in today's dollars would be $64,000 a month. And he would throw these extravagant parties. And he wasn't necessarily spending money that he had made through his songwriting. He was spending inheritance money from his grandfather.
who wants to be a millionaire? I do.
He did.
He did, and he loved it, and he shared it, and he had parties. And he and Elsa Maxwell brought Venice back on the map as the party town. And then they bought a place in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a place in the East. I think it was in New York.
Yeah.
And so they were everywhere.
Abroad.
And everybody wanted to meet him. I mean, they were never alone. And he would call people and say, "Oh, come and join us tonight for dinner. We're just having a little supper, and you'll be with us, the only ones." And they would come. Everybody drop everything to go and have dinner with Cole Porter. And, you know, how would you like to be like that?
Sounds cool
Oh,
to me.
you are. You are. Oh, excuse me, you are.
Sounds good to me. Now, we didn't talk about the fact that he had a life-changing accident.
Oh, let's talk about that.
And
It's
so-
very sad.
It is. He, of that era, one snuck out on me.
We'll pick it up and put it back
all right.
on.
You're
Okay.
a brave person. That's
Te-
your prawn.
It's mine. Yes, let's talk about what happened, because he was never the same
He
after
wasn't.
that.
He was not. Yeah, he had a riding accident, horse riding, and that was again a wealthy and elite activity and thing to do. But the horse fell on him and crushed his legs badly, so
Yeah.
much so that he never walked properly ever again, and he was in a lot of pain, and so that led to painkiller addictions and more alcohol and actually I noticed in the book that the photographs of him from a young man to an old man, some people you can kind of see that person all the way through. He almost looked like an entirely different person
Yes.
by the end of his life,
Well,
which was very sad.
It was it was a painful experience. And at first the doctors told him you should have both legs amputated. Oh no, he couldn't do that. I mean, that was too
Right.
much of a jump. And so probably 10 years later, he did have them both amputated. And they told him it was never going to be the marrow of his bone that had been ruined in this accident. And so pain was just with him all the time. And I think I need a little bit more kava.
And the irony of that, when you think about it, is of course that here's somebody who brought joy
Yes.
with his music to everyone, and all of his songs were kind of flippant and airy, and nothing was a downer, and yet he had this dramatic side of sorrow and pain in his life, and the fact that he couldn't be himself as a homosexual. I mean, it was
Yeah.
illegal.
Oh, yes.
He could go to jail for
Yes.
just being himself, and so the fact that he married and had this loving relationship with a person who understood him is remarkable.
I think it is remarkable. And I think I was amazed by all these details and all these friends that came to see him. He still went on trips to like Egypt or Morocco, and they would get him on a donkey and they would pull him up. And he had a lot of people that followed him and helped him. And I don't know what his last big number was that he composed.
Well, Kiss Me Kate was a huge success. That was his
wasn't
last big musical that he made in the 1950s, and he won the very first Tony Award.
Yes.
For Kiss Me Kate. So
Indiana, the Shakespeare, based on Shakespeare.
Yes, based on Taming of the Shrew.
Yes.
I believe. And so, yeah, I mean, Indiana has a lot to be proud of in Cole Porter.
Yeah.
And so, and if you've ever been to Peru, Indiana, he is buried at the cemetery there, and it's a very unusual and sort of idyllic setting, that cemetery. I encourage anybody driving through that part of the state to take a few minutes and go see it.
It's not, the tombstones do not say Porter, they say Cole.
Yeah.
So people are looking for Porter and they don't find it.
Right.
So that's a hint if you decide to go to the cemetery in Peru. In fact, you can make quite a tour of Indiana. You can see where James
Dean?
James Dean.
Sure.
And the one.
There's some wonderful sites to see all across the state of Indiana.
Gene Porter.
Gene Stratton Porter has 2 historic sites, one in Noble County and the Limberlost Swamp. And so we're just going to keep talking about Indiana authors here, aren't we? And writers.
Yes. Now we just have a minute before we go to our next segment, and I just want to say we've worked on an hors d'oeuvre table and a presentation, and we have our cava. Remember, Spanish champagne, that's what it is.
You brought me here in a tux, and look, not a shrimp cocktail or prawn cocktail and cocktail sauce, and
you don't have a spot on your foodie apron.
Living dangerously today and survived.
Well, they needed help, so we came in, and now we're going to the party. We're going to get ready, and we want you to join us. We'll be right back. Oh, I so enjoy these parties, don't you?
I do indeed.
It is absolutely marvelous. And we just want to kind of recap what we are serving tonight or today, whenever. So talk about what you brought.
Well, I made a prawn cocktail from raw shrimp. And
yes.
Nothing to put down the ring of shrimp that you can buy in your grocery store. That's perfectly okay. But if you want to take it to the next level, this is the way to do it.
This is the way to do it, yes.
And what did you make?
Well, let's see. We have some deviled eggs. We have some stuffed potatoes, little baby potatoes or marble potatoes, sardines, oysters, and then we have a lobster salad and our cava, our Spanish champagne, and it's marvelous, isn't it?
It is. Just like Cole Porter was marvelous.
Marvelous, absolutely. Now tell me what you were struck by or what you really enjoyed in this book.
I learned a lot about Cole Porter. I think that my biggest takeaway is that for somebody who's thought of for making all these sort of happy-go-lucky and flippant songs, that he had a great deal of courage personally to persevere through some of his own personal life struggles, and then definitely toward the end of his life with the accident and the pain that he endured. He lived after that accident for almost 20 years. And
yes.
Not quite, but that's a long time.
It is to be in pain.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. I never realized
Actually,
it was
longer than 20 years.
Was it?
Yeah, 37 to 60. Yeah, yeah.
And yes. And so I think he had great friends. He loved music. He entertained people. He kept entertaining. He kept writing. And so we say to Cole Porter, we're glad you're from our state.
Absolutely.
And we wish you'd come back. For the rest of you, we're glad you're here. And thank you for watching. Remember, good food, good friends, good books, good memories make for an excellent life. And thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Gail, for having me back.
It's always a pleasure. It's always fun. And so we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This WNIT local production has been made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.